Thank you, Chris. You may be seated. Well, our chapel speaker this morning is Dr. Tiffany Anderson, and she serves as the school superintendent over in Topeka, Kansas. And Dr. Anderson is known for being a leader who is not only with the people, but in front of the people, guiding them as she walks alongside them. Known for her tennis shoes. She's known for always wearing tennis shoes. And you might be saying to yourself, like, different shoes every day? No. She wears tennis shoes because she stated that she wants to be ready to move at a moment's notice and to respond to the needs that are in front of her. Dr. Anderson has written a book called Closing the Achievement Gap, Reaching and Teaching High Poverty Learners, and a group called the Washington Post. The Washington Post referred to Dr. Anderson as the woman who made schools work for the poor. This is a Kingdom Now conversation. It's a conversation about how you, in no matter what your vocational calling, whatever it might look like, are being sent out into the world that God loves so much. Dr. Anderson has come to talk to us on that very topic. Would you give her a warm pioneer welcome this morning?
All right, this is new talking with the mask on, so we're going to try to make this thing work. I like to make sure that I can connect with you, so for the 6 feet social distancing, I'll try not to come too close, but baby, if I do, just say, hey, get back, okay? With that in mind, there are a couple of videos that I actually have, and a few minutes before coming out, and I'm going to adjust this just a little bit. All right, we have about 40,000 people that we serve, so I have about 20 different masks, and depending on where I go, I change it up. Today was the first day for our teachers, and we did not expect that would be the day. That should have been many weeks ago. And so I shared this morning that with today being the first day for our teachers and our students, our 14,000 students who return in a couple of weeks, this is quite the day. But I will tell you that I feel that I am meant to be here on this day for a purpose. And so in sharing that, as I get ready to get started, before I say anything else, I'm just going to say a very small, quick prayer, and we're going to jump right on into the 20 minutes or so that we have together. Now, before coming out, I did change a clip. And with the clip that I changed, for those that are superhero fans that like the Black Panther and know who that is, there's a clip that I think is perfectly meant for you. I happened to see it on Sunday, and I shared it with my children, so I asked, could that be shown? There was another clip that was really an intro about work and purpose, and one was taken off, am I right, or was the one? All right. So the one with Jennings, I think we'll start off with, and the 1 minute of Black Panther we'll end with, if we can fit both of those in. Before we get started, I'm going to say a quick prayer. Father, as I bow my head to you and I stand before you, I ask that this group of young people see more of thee and less of me. Father, work through this room, protect them, guide them, order their steps. Let today be a day that's filled not only with your purpose, but your word, so that they leave here energized, protected, ready to do your will. Father, as we start this semester, I ask that you bless every one of them. When they have the moments of doubt, let them know that you are here right with them. Father, it is you that can do all things, and remind them of that today. It's in your name that I pray. Amen. All right. So hold on to your seats. We're going to do this thing this morning, mask and all. Okay, I'm just going to have to just put it down just a little bit. Okay, y'all are way back there. Just a little bit so that we can get started. With that in mind, can we show the video that has the Jennings piece? I am the first Black female superintendent in Topeka, Kansas. I am one of 5 Black superintendents in Kansas. Thank you. Now, when I became the superintendent 5 years ago, I was the only Black superintendent in Kansas. So here's the thing, if you don't have a first, you'll never have a second. All right, so now that we have 5, that sounds like a small number out of 400 superintendents in the state of Kansas, but we're excited that we now have 5 and not just 1. You are positioned on purpose. Where you are at this very moment, every challenge that you have, every place that you encounter someone else, whether it's your roommate, whether it's who you pass on the way out of the door, it is divinely orchestrated. I'm going to share with you just a few things and a few stories to speak that into you. But if you leave with nothing else, know that there are no accidents. Everything that happens to you and for you is meant and orchestrated to uplift who God wants you to be. All right, so here's the scarf story. Everybody wants to know why I wear scarves, and everybody wants to know why I wear shoes. We'll show the Jennings clip. We'll jump into about 5-10 minutes, and then I'm going to wrap on up. When we get to the last 5 minutes, just give me 5, all right? With that, I will tell you the scarf story. I was the youngest principal in St. Louis, Missouri, and to be a good model and a good steward, let me put this mask back on. I have got to get used to this. All right. All right, and I have another mask, and I always take it down, which is not as complicated as this. So my secretary said, if we give you Velcro, you're going to keep this on, Dr. Anderson, and it just does not work for me. All right, with that, I will tell you, okay, and that doesn't work either. So with that, I will tell you, here's a scarf story. When I was a principal in the city of St. Louis, I worked at a school that was 100% free lunch, 99% African American. We had one white student. Clark School, if you Google this story, you will find it. In that school, I will tell you, when I took on the building, the person said, you're going to make less as a principal than you will as a teacher in the county. I said, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want. When I walked through the building, it was raining through the roof. And I asked, how do you teach? And they said, baby, around the buckets, how would you teach? There was this acceptance of low standards. This is just what we deserve. This is just what we're used to. Well, one morning I came into the building and Officer Pother and Middleton called. Those were the police officers in the area, and they asked if all my students showed up. If you work in a school that's 100% poverty in the inner city of St. Louis, that is not what you want to hear, and I'm from St. Louis. And they said, did all of your students show up? I sent my parent liaison, Joanne Carmen, she still works for St. Louis, around the building. On the way out of the door was Ellery Clark. He works for me in St. Louis in Jennings School District, where I last was at. Ellery Clark was on his way out of the building with his students getting ready to go to the art museum, and we said, just a minute, you have one student missing. Within about an hour, we recognized that our one student, our 4th grade student, Rodney McAllister, had died across the street in the park. He had been mauled to death by dogs all night long. I asked my parents, didn't you hear screaming and crying? They said, well, yeah, Doc, we heard that all night long. I asked, why didn't you open the door? Seek to understand in order to serve. They said, Doc, in this neighborhood, when you call the police, they don't always come. In this neighborhood, when you hear screaming and crying, you shut the blinds and hope that they don't get you. In this neighborhood, when you hear gunshots every night, you hide under the bed and you close your blinds. How dare you ask us, why didn't you open the door? It was at that moment, everything for me changed. I began getting scarves, and they have these. This is a Save the Children scarf. This one happens to have families on it, and I'm wearing the color blue to represent this university. But I will tell you that I started getting scarves, and every couple weeks, they were anonymous. To this day, I do not know who gave me those scarves. So then after that year, I began collecting scarves. I didn't realize I had a scarf fetish till about a few years later, and someone said, what's the deal with the scarves? I said, what are you talking about? They said, you have a scarf fetish. I said, what? And my husband said, yeah, babe, it really is kind of weird to have scarves in the glove compartment and all the other places. So I have thousands of scarves. They remind me of Rodney. I never go to work without a scarf. It is our role to uplift, to protect the most vulnerable. And at that moment, we failed. That year, we actually increased class size. We hired our own social worker. We put in washer and dryers, and we knew that our work was to uplift the poor. Whether you were a believer or a non-believer, that is one thing we could share, that our role is to protect the vulnerable and uplift the poor. I wear the sneakers because, look, I just can't do this work in heels, to be quite honest. It's not about looking good. It's about doing God's will. No matter how you look doing it or what people say around you, people are fickle. So just look how you're going to look, present as you are, and walk into the space knowing that you are meant to be there. So I wear tennis shoes everywhere I go, and I don't change them out. So they're all sometimes dirty and holy by the end of the year, but it tells me what kind of year I've had quite often. So with that, and I will share with you, I'll stop for a moment, show you the clip, and then jump into the next few minutes.
Good morning.
Meet Tiffany Anderson, part-time crossing guard.
I'm ready today.
And full-time school superintendent of the Jennings School District. She leaves her Kansas City home at 2 in the morning to get to this St. Louis suburb by 6.
Have a good day. Be good.
Awesome. See you later.
Every day, Anderson sets an exhausting pace in the school hallways.
Okay, let me go here and take this photo.
And she doesn't drink coffee.
This is what a great line should look like.
In the 4 years since Anderson blew into Jennings like a whirlwind, she's helped establish a community food bank, a shelter for homeless students, a foundation that gives away clothes, shoes, toiletries.
Okay, let's go pick out a toothbrush.
And school supplies, both high-tech and low-tech. And she's put a washer and dryer in each school for low-income kids. She's set up access to a doctor in the schools. She's increased teacher salaries and brought music and fine arts back to the district.
We really looked at what gets in the way of kids wanting to be at school or doing well at school. I think those are the things that, for me, I am most proud of.
The Jennings District, once one of Missouri's lowest performing, has reached full accreditation under Anderson for the first time in a decade. Grades are up, graduation rates are up, scholarship funds are up. And the district, which was operating under a $2 million deficit before Anderson got here, now has a balanced budget. Teacher Chris Slinkard sold his home in the much bigger Kansas City School District just so he could follow Anderson here after working with her once before.
She inspires greatness around her, and she makes you truly believe and know for a fact that you are making a change.
Anderson's first order of business when she arrived was tackling the tough home lives of many of the students in this mostly black, low-income suburb.
The first challenge that I found in meeting people were the needs of poverty, food, literally. So in October of 2012, we opened the community cupboard. We give out 8,000 pounds of food a month, which is 200 to 400 families.
Then she helped turn this dilapidated home into Hope House, the student homeless shelter.
When children are homeless, as a community, we must take the responsibility to address that.
Anderson is relentlessly pushing Jennings businesses to hire her graduates. She's even hired unemployed former students, like Samuel Brown, who now works at the food bank.
When the superintendent gave me this job, it made me grow into a man that I'm become now, you know, so I feel good about it.
How grateful are you to her?
I can't even say it. I'm thankful.
So how did she do it all? Well, she started just by asking for stuff, applying for grants.
When people know the story, they want to be part of helping you. They just need to know how.
Anderson's constantly in motion, helping out at the food bank,
You need some oranges?
or jumping in to substitute teach,
I'm going to see if you get it right.
or marching kids through the crosswalk and handing out goodies.
Remember you helped me the other day? So I got you both these. Chocolate.
What I need to do in this case?
The principal of Jennings High School tries to keep up with her.
She set the tone. See, the leader sets the tone. The leader creates the vision. The leader hires the staff, because you have to have the right people on the boat. She has done that.
Excellent line, preschool. Excellent line.
Oh, and about Anderson's boundless energy,
I call it my Christmas every day. Even sitting in this chair as I move around, it is like Christmas every day. I tend to say we are anointed for the task that we have to do. And so I truly believe from a spiritual aspect, clearly I'm meant to be a teacher.
but these days are bittersweet for Anderson. She is leaving Jennings at the end of the school year.
So I thank you because you all have embraced this vision.
Her last all-district meeting got emotional. She's preparing to take over as the first black female school superintendent in Topeka, Kansas. That's home to the landmark Brown versus Board of Education case that desegregated schools. Anderson says she's taking a pay cut to go there.
This work isn't about money or any of those things. This work is about serving children well and serving people well. This work is about transforming communities in ways that people thought weren't possible.
So your vision, I just pray that somebody comes with the same vision, that we can keep it moving, because...
Well, you know, the community won't allow anything less.
So watch out, Topeka. There's a tornado in tennis shoes heading your way, and your kids might just be better off for it.
Let's go on to class, beautiful. Have a good day, okay? All right, bye-bye.
Andy Roesgen, Al Jazeera, Jennings, Missouri.
Now, I will tell you, they shared a lot about me, but it wasn't me. It was God working through me for the work that was done. And every time things happen and people say, what did you do to make it happen? It's not you. It's something much larger working through you. Well, at the very end, when we show the clip of who I still call the Black Panther, he's going to speak to that and quote Jeremiah. For I know the plans that I have for you. You were so purpose-filled, you just have to recognize it. What I will tell you, and there are a few stories I will say, that when they first recruited me for Topeka, I said, I'm from St. Louis. I love my little raggedy city. I'm not going anywhere. When the Ferguson unrest started, I will tell you that when it first started and the students came out of the class and said, we're going to march out, and Ferguson, if you don't know, Jennings borders Ferguson. So Mike, which is what Mike Brown's nickname is, he died on West Florissant. Ferguson runs all the way down West Florissant. Topeka Public School, Jennings School District, which is where I was, his family lived in Jennings. So his sister and his mother. So they said, Dr. Anderson, everybody's walking out. We're going to walk out of schools. Seek to understand. I said, where are we going to go? We don't know, but everybody walking out. We're 100% African American here. We're going to walk out of schools. So they came out of the class, no justice, no peace. And I stood on the cafeteria table. They said, ooh, you're going to get fired. Okay, well then y'all better come on with me. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. I said, if you want real change, what are the 3 top things you want? Come back tomorrow with those in mind. I have buses waiting for us, and we will drive up to the police station, get off halfway, because we don't want to miss school, and ask for those 3 things. They asked for body cameras, Black people on the police force, because at the time they didn't have them. And they wanted community policing. It's a pretty good list, all 3 of which those demands were made. You were meant to be where you are at the time that you're there. When they asked me to come to Topeka, I said, no way. They said, but you drive 4 hours. And when I took Jennings, I had never driven more than an hour in my life anywhere. So how I drove 4 hours wasn't me. It was something through me. That's the only way that I can explain it. 8 hours in a day. Get up at 2, get to work at 6, crossing guard duty, and at the end of the evening, drive the 4 hours back home. There was no human explanation as to how you can even do that every day for almost 5 years. And so, as I made that drive, when I finally decided to come to Topeka, I said, okay, I'm going to come. Michelle Obama had done a speech in Topeka Public Schools about making history and helping your community. And I was married to Stanley Anderson, Dr. Stanley Anderson. He's an OBGYN and robotic surgeon. Little did I know. And as I prayed on it, I told my husband the day before the position closed, I think God means for me to come to Topeka. This was after all these things that had been built in Jennings. These are all these things that now Jennings is 100% graduation rate, 100% college rate, 100% poverty. There are not many schools that could say that. And I've been gone now almost 5 years. Systems remain, programs come and go with the people and the money, but systems remain. So when you say kingdom now, how do you uplift God's kingdom? How do you create systems of love, kindness, and generosity that will continue on far after you? I will tell you that when I started in Topeka, little did I know, my husband of 24 years, Stanley Anderson, first the robotic surgeon, or one of the first here in Kansas City. So if you now go to a hospital and you need a hysterectomy or something, it'll be a robot. That did not exist 9 years ago. So my husband was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And I found that out a year after I started in Topeka, about 6 months after I started. He had back pain. We went to the doctor. Let me ask you this question. If someone said to you, you have a month left to live, what would you change? Let me give you a minute to think about that. If they said you have a year left to live, what would you change? I hope to God you say nothing. We started every morning with me saying, okay, we got this thing, birth through college. We got this thing, baby, and we would hit our hands together. We started every morning saying, not my will, but your will be done. Every morning. So we left the doctor's office, and he said, well, you have multiple myeloma, and you have limited time. He said years, and we looked at each other. We're in our 40s. And so we looked and said, who do we tell? No one. What do we change? Nothing. We are more committed now to make sure to lift up God's kingdom in everything we do. Every person that we encounter, see that as an opportunity divinely orchestrated for you. I believe that's the reason why Topeka even offered the job and while I was back, and I will tell you from that moment forward, even more so, the things that we built and grew and developed together that final year, as we kept this secret. And we kept the secret for multiple years. People learned about Stan's passing from the newspaper. It was on the front page. His partners learned about it. His patients learned about it through that. So even in my darkest moment, for myself and my children, see, since I know that life is everlasting, and even in that moment, I was able to kind of come back to my school district. The memorial service was on Friday, and on Monday when I returned, the first thing that I said to them, it was the day of the eclipse. What better day to say thank you for the blessings that you've given? What better day to be reminded that every person in your life is meant to change and uplift you as you are to be for them. So this kingdom come piece in terms of your theme, when you see kingdom now, that now, I would love for you to be thinking about it in terms of not our will, but your will be done. And so my entire life of just serving is because instead of looking at what's my purpose, you don't have to look any farther. Our purpose, I believe, is to serve God's purpose. That's it. And when you know that that's your purpose, it makes life a whole lot easier. And when you see all the work in Jennings, what we talked about is mindsets are our only barriers. Literally, how you think is your only barrier. Now, I don't know about anybody in this room, but I'm an HGTV fan. I love HGTV. I watch it all the time. And literally, I met a student, and I think I'm pretty much kind of closing out because I want to save enough time for this video. I met a student in Jennings, and this reminds us all to be fully present. How often do you say good morning and you pass someone and you're down here and they're back there saying good morning? Be fully present. Remember that God placed you there on purpose. And with that being fully present, I can remember in Jennings, my favorite student, we're not supposed to have favorites, but my favorite student, Kevon Munger, he was supposed to be on stage singing, and he was in the audience, and I said, Kevon, well, at the time I didn't know his name. I said, young man, aren't you supposed to be on stage? He said, I wasn't feeling it. I said, oh, you weren't feeling it? Oh, well, how about I take you home and talk to your parents so you can feel like singing in the future? He gets in the car. Within minutes, I learned that Kevon's homeless and has been for years, and no one knew. So he begins to explain to me how you can live as a homeless middle schooler and a high schooler without anyone knowing, and the laundromats and all the shopping, and how you can, if you get 2 jobs in the wintertime, then you'll never really have to worry about being cold at night, and all of these things. Seek to understand in order to serve. I said, well, Kevon, I have to be at the Rams at the time as a football team in St. Louis, and they're giving us a check, and we have these box seats, so, you're going to have to go with me there, then we're going to figure this thing out. So we stop at Target, we get him some khaki pants and a button-down shirt, and then he changes in the bathroom at Target. He goes with me, and we meet Miss Molly. Miss Molly's a PR lady. She still is for the Rams. They're now in L.A. And she said, oh, is this handsome young man your son? I said, this is my school son. She said, well, what's a school son? A school son is somebody who needs a mama, a school mama. I'm his school mama, this is my school son. School son, say hi to Miss Molly. Hi, Miss Molly, hi, school son. Okay. We leave. She calls a week later and says, can I mentor your school son? I said, yeah. Can I buy him some stuff? Oh, you want to buy him some stuff? Yeah. One thing leads to another. The lady adopts Kevon. Kevon is now in the Marines. He has a better life than all of us in here in terms of how he's doing now. And I asked after Kevon, my staff, what happens to homeless children? Like, how do they fill out their college FAFSA form and stuff? They said, well, I don't know. You were divinely placed where you are on purpose. We were supposed to meet Kevon. Imagine if I didn't stop and said, son, why are you not singing on stage? Imagine. Imagine if I didn't take him with me, he would have never met Miss Molly. Nothing happens on accident. And I will tell you that from that point, they said, well, Dr. Anderson, we got the food pantry. Well, you know, I only have 4 people in central office. She said, I got to run HR. We can't be, come on now. What else are we going to do? Are we going to save all the children? Absolutely, with my Save the Children scarf. Not all the children, just the ones you get a chance to meet. She said, okay. That night she went home, came back next day and said, on the news, there was a place called Joe's Place in St. Louis County. Can we go visit? It's a boarding house for children. We visited, we came back, and we had this idea. What if we took a dilapidated building, think of all these buildings in Kansas City, and just turned it into a homeless shelter for children? They said, well, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Well, do we own any dilapidated buildings? And this was in St. Louis. And we did. We had an old priest rectory of all places. Cost $500 to $50,000 to tear it down, so they wouldn't tear it down because it cost too much. So I said, I'd like to borrow $50,000 from the budget, and I guarantee we're going to get it back in the budget by the end of the year. They said, how are you going to do that? Well, I don't know. Lord didn't tell me that part yet, but I do know I'm supposed to borrow $50,000. And I know I'm here for a reason. My goodness, I drive 4 hours to come here. So, I mean, at least you can do is give me the $50,000. And one way or the next, you're going to get the money back by the end of the year. And they said, okay. So they let me take the $50,000. We went to that dilapidated home that you saw. We started repairing small things. Washington Post gets a wind of it. St. Louis Post gets a wind of it. Washington University College, they have contractors working. They offer to do the floor. And then I just went and got some magazines and cut out some pretty stuff that I like and just put it on the walls and invited rich people to come. And can you believe they bought all that stuff? Mindset. I just took them on tours and said, let me take you on a tour. The lady who bought the most was the lady that owns Build-A-Bear. Maxine Clark at the time owned Build-A-Bear. She bought the most. But I just put up pictures of stuff I like. And someone said, that's the craziest thing. You're just going to put up pictures with you. Yeah, I'm going to put them on the wall. And I'm going to walk through and say, oh, I wish I had some stainless steel in the kitchen. I wish I had, they bought everything. They just went and just took a picture and just bought it. Mindset. If you know that God placed you with your brilliance where you are, then why shirk away? Stand in the brilliance that he made you to stand in. Claim what's yours, which what is yours is to show his purpose and his will to build his kingdom. And you can't do it afraid. Come in knowing that you're placed there on purpose. That's why being the first black female superintendent didn't make me afraid by any stretch. Coming into places, and I'm generally the only person wearing tennis shoes, they always stop and look. Sometimes they turn up their nose. And I say, hello. I'm out on my shoe. Because I know that I'm supposed to be there. And I know I'm not there for man, but I'm there for one person alone. And I make sure that I know that he knows I'm giving him all the credit and glory. And so with that, I will tell you that that Hope House is what I called it. I went to Kinko's, bought a big sign. I said, I want it to be called Hope House. And the guy said, well, why Hope House? I said, I'll tell him the whole story about Kevon. I tell him we're going to open this homeless shelter, and we'll call it Hope House. He said, you know, I lived in Jennings. I was homeless. And then I had all of these foster parents, and blah, blah, blah. He tells me his story. I said, it's so meant to be. So then when I got back to the Hope House, my staff said, well, Dr. Anderson, is this legal? I asked the school board attorney, is this legal? He said, no. I said, okay, well, let's make it legal. He said, well, listen to this one. Can you find a foster home? Who did I call? The man from Kinko's. What foster home were you with? Missouri Baptist Foster Home. Missouri Baptist Foster Home, can you be our partner and assume the liability? Can you find me a house mom to live here who will never have to worry about mortgage or landscaping or anything? They said, sure. So there's a house mom that lives there. Missouri Baptist is the partner. Any student that's in foster care or homeless has a home for life. Talk about mindset. So as I close this piece out, know that you are positioned on purpose. I'm in my last year of seminary getting my MDiv degree, which most people in my school district don't realize that. My congregation is Topeka Public Schools, and my congregation will be whatever school district the Lord leads me to lead, because I know the plans that he has for me. And every time you say the Lord's Prayer, I will ask for you to do this, to stress his will be done, not my will. Okay? This final clip, can you show that? It's actually 3 minutes. You're only going to see 1 minute in the interest of time. And then if you want the clip, they can email it to you, or you can Google it.
Finally, I thought of Ali in the middle of the yard. In his elder years, drawing from his victories and his losses. At that moment, I realized something new about the greatness of Ali and how he carried his crown. I realized that he was transferring something to me on that day. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter in me. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter to me. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter to me. Sometimes you need to feel the pain and sting of defeat to activate the real passion and purpose that God predestined inside of you. God says in Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Graduating class, hear me well on this day. When you have reached the hilltop and you are deciding on next jobs, next steps, careers, further education, you would rather find purpose than a job or a career. Purpose crosses disciplines. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. Whatever you choose for a career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. When I dare to challenge the system that would relegate us to victims and stereotypes with no clear historical backgrounds, no hopes or talents, when I questioned that method of portrayal, a different path opened up for me. The path to my destiny. When God has something for you, it doesn't matter who stands against it. God will move someone that's holding you back away from a door and put someone there who will open it for you. If it's meant for you, I don't know what your future is, but if you are willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory, then you will not regret it.
Now this is your time. I'm gonna say kingdom and you say now, kingdom, kingdom. Kingdom. Thank you for letting me be here. It has been a blessing. May you be uplifted, encouraged, and have a wonderful semester.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.